Vicki Lawrence spent years making people laugh on camera while carrying things she never said out loud. She lost the one person who grounded her after nearly 5 decades together, and the weight of that loss stayed with her. Long before that, she went through a strange illness that baffled doctors and a marriage that lasted minutes but somehow led to a chart-topping hit. And tucked behind all of it is the way the Carol Burnett Show stepped in at the exact moments Vicki's life could have fallen apart. There's more to her story than anyone knew.
It was really the first time that Mama spoke out, I believe, and it unleashed a monster, God knows, but...
I wrote Carol a fan letter when I was a senior in high school. I had entered a contest.
Hollywood's longest love story. Ends June of 2024 came with news that slipped by almost unnoticed. Al Schultz passed away from congestive heart failure after nearly 50 years of marriage to Vicki Lawrence. There were no public statements, no glossy magazine tributes, just that quiet kind of heartbreak inside their Long Beach home, the place where they had raised 2 children and built a life that somehow survived every storm Hollywood sent their way. It is strange hearing everything in the past tense now, Lawrence said months later, her voice softer than the one people remember from Mama's family. He was such a kind man, and honestly, so unbelievably handsome. Every November, she used to post anniversary messages, old photos of the two of them laughing and smiling, celebrating the good seasons, the rough patches, and all the late-night jokes that stitched their marriage together. Then, one year, the posts stopped. The laughter on her page stopped too. Their son, Garrett, moved back home when Al's health declined. He watched the slow fading of his father and the slow but unmistakable reshaping of his mother, who had never known adult life without her partner. At 76, Lawrence now walks their rescue dogs, Hannah and Toby, alone. She reads cookbooks, like they are novels in rooms that feel too wide, and she forces herself to go out with friends because staying home makes the silence too loud. It is surreal spending 50 years with someone, and then suddenly they are gone, she admitted. It takes time to steady yourself again. But this loss cuts even deeper, because Al was not only her husband. He was the person who carried her through the darkest health crisis she ever faced. When her body erupted in unexplained hives in 2012, when doctors shrugged and she wondered if she was dying, Al never faltered. "He was my rock," she described him then. "Marrying your best friend means you always have someone to laugh with." Al had trained under Harry Merritt, the famed makeup artist who worked with Marilyn Monroe and Doris Day. His career began at NBC on shows like Laugh-In and Hollywood Squares. In 1968, the Makeup Artists Union sent him to CBS Television City, and that is where Carol Burnett spotted him walking by her dressing room. She took one look at him and told her assistant, "He is adorable. I want him on my show." That choice changed everything. Working on the Carol Burnett Show, Al met a young comedian named Vicki Lawrence, and they fell for each other in the middle of cameras, costumes, and punchlines. They married in 1974. Their daughter, Courtney, arrived in May of 1975, and their son, Garrett, followed in July of 1977. For nearly 5 decades, they were never apart. Al did her makeup for every show, every award night, every tour. He held her through illness, through career highs, through heartbreak. Now she is learning to speak in I instead of we. And that shift is the part of her story she is only beginning to let the world see. And that health nightmare Al saw her through? It turned out to be far worse than people realized. And something similar had hit her once before, a mystery that still baffles doctors. Vicky's body turned against her August. 2012 began with a joke. Vicki Lawrence woke up with itchy palms and told Al they should buy lottery tickets. Everyone knows itchy palms mean money is coming, right? They laughed over breakfast. By lunchtime, the laughter was gone. Red welts erupted across her body, her stomach, back, thighs, hands, and feet. The itching was unbearable. She scratched until she bled, leaving angry claw marks across her skin. "I was going crazy," she recalls. "When I pulled up my shirt, there were giant red claw marks all over my stomach, back, and hips." She tried everything: ice packs, cold compresses. Nothing worked. The hives spread, merging into huge red patches that burned and itched at the same time. She couldn't sleep, couldn't sit still. Her skin felt on fire from the inside. Al rushed her to the allergist. They ran tests, gave her high-dose steroids, and filled her with antihistamines. Nothing worked. The hives raged on as if her own immune system had declared war. 3 days in, she had a full anxiety attack. Sitting in bed watching television, she felt her throat closing. Panic set in hard. Al drove her to the emergency room. Doctors hooked her up to intravenous epinephrine and then Benadryl. 4 hours of treatment. 4 hours of hoping something would work. "It did absolutely nothing," she said. "I was in tears, still miserable." Back home, she developed a desperate routine. Ice-cold showers multiple times a day until her body went numb, shivering so hard her teeth chattered. Then she'd sit on the edge of the bed, shaking until the cold dulled her skin enough to stop the itching for a few minutes. "I'd stay in the shower as long as I could stand it," she explained. "Then I would sit on the side of the bed and shiver and shake until my skin settled down enough that I could pass out, hopefully on cool sheets." Menthol and camphor lotions brought only brief relief, 15 minutes at most. Whole areas would be raised and red where the hives had merged, Lawrence said. "Once you touch them, it's all over. You can't take your hands off. You just itch. You kind of turn into a raw nerve." The isolation was worse than the pain. Friends would call, and she made excuses. "How do you explain that your own skin is your enemy?" "I was very frustrated," she admitted. "It's a very isolating condition because nobody can relate." This went on for over a month. 30 days of hell. 30 nights of cold showers and shivering. 30 mornings hoping it would be gone, only to find new hives appearing. Finally, her allergist diagnosed chronic spontaneous urticaria, or CSU, an incurable condition where the immune system attacks the skin for no reason. The hives last 6 weeks or longer with no trigger. CSU affects about 2.6 million Americans. Women make up 70% of cases. Lawrence began injectable treatment every 2 weeks for 6 months. Within days, the hives vanished. This wasn't her first encounter. She had a similar outbreak much earlier that cleared with steroids and antihistamines. 6 months after starting injections in 2012, one brief flare-up came, quickly treated, and since then, she has had no problems. She became the spokesperson for CIU and U with the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, traveling and speaking publicly. "I want people to know they're not alone," she said. "You can control it, and there is an answer. Keep digging, and don't give up." Through it all, Al was the steady anchor in her life. But long before him, before their 50-year love story even began, there was another marriage, one so short it barely lasted long enough to sign the papers. How did that fleeting union end up giving her the biggest hit of her career? Marriage that lasted 10 minutes. In 1972, Vicki Lawrence was just a 23-year-old who believed she had found love with Bobby Russell, a Nashville country singer and songwriter. Russell had real credibility. He'd written hit songs and scored a top 30 crossover with Saturday Morning Confusion in 1971. He knew the music business inside and out. They married on June 29, 1972. It should have been the start of something lasting. It lasted about 10 minutes, Lawrence said years later, not bothering to soften the truth. During their brief marriage, they recorded a song Russell had written, "The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia." A dark murder ballad about a man who cheats and pays the ultimate price, the song was cinematic, catchy, and razor-sharp in its storytelling. Russell hated it. He refused to release it, worried the South would be offended and that it would hurt his career. Lawrence watched him keep what she believed was a guaranteed hit in his back pocket, while their marriage crumbled. So she made a bold choice. She went behind his back and recorded it herself. The song blew up. By 1973, it shot to #1 on both the United States and Canadian charts. It became Lawrence's signature solo hit, played on radio stations nationwide. Everyone knew the opening lines, and everyone sang along to the chorus. The timing was perfect and ironic. The song climbed the charts right in the middle of their 1974 divorce. Lawrence was singing about betrayal and revenge while ending her own marriage. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. "It was one of the few good things that came out of that marriage," she joked later, and she wasn't entirely joking. Russell died in November 1992 from coronary artery disease at 51. But that #1 hit remains Lawrence's forever. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't in a song's lyrics. It's in proving you never needed someone else's permission. That short-lived marriage taught Lawrence a crucial lesson about her value. On The Carol Burnett Show, she had accepted whatever they offered, just $800 a week, while the show dominated ratings. Burnett was making serious money. The network was raking in profits. And Lawrence? "I wasn't in a position to ask for anything," she said later. "So I got the shaft." Executives had called her very rough at 18, saying they wanted a real actress instead of a UCLA drama dropout from Inglewood. Even after proving herself year after year, creating iconic characters and winning awards, she still felt she had to be grateful just to exist in that world. The hit song changed everything. She had trusted her instincts over someone else's doubts and been right. When Mama's Family came around in 1983, she remembered that lesson. She played hard to get, demanded the deal she deserved, and got it. Fair pay, creative control, and respect. The show ran 7 seasons and became a syndication goldmine, still airing decades later. But Lawrence's career might never have existed if CBS executives had had their way in 1975. Yet there was one person who could save her. So who stepped in to protect her future? "What do you mean you are pregnant? You are fired!" Vicki Lawrence got pregnant with her first child, Courtney, in 1974, and was working steadily on The Carol Burnett Show, creating characters audiences loved. Everything seemed perfect until CBS executives decided pregnant women didn't belong on television. They wanted her fired, gone, replaced, just for being pregnant. Lawrence had no idea. She went to work, performed her sketches, and went home to Al, completely unaware that her job was hanging by a thread. But Carol Burnett knew, and she wasn't having it. Carol missed doing the family sketches so much, Lawrence revealed years later. that she asked the producers to bring me back. Those sketches featured Lawrence as Mama Thelma Harper, the cantankerous old woman who insulted everyone around her. Audiences couldn't get enough. Burnett loved performing them, and the ratings proved their popularity. So when executives tried to erase Lawrence because of her pregnancy, Burnett put her foot down. Lawrence kept her job, had her baby, and didn't learn about the near firing until years later. "Carol has been largely responsible for most everything in my adult life," Lawrence said, and she meant it literally. This was actually the third time Burnett saved Lawrence's life. The first came in 1966, when Lawrence was 17, performing at a local contest in Inglewood, California. A reporter compared her to a young Carol Burnett. Her mother suggested sending a fan letter. Lawrence included newspaper clippings, and Burnett, pregnant with her daughter Jody, decided to drive to Inglewood to see her perform. Burnett watched Lawrence sing "Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey," playing guitar and kazoo, and help crown her Miss Fireball. Lawrence was in shock, thinking it was a prank. 2 months later, she boldly walked into the hospital maternity ward after Burnett had given birth, gave her flowers, and heard 5 words that changed everything. "I haven't forgotten you." A few weeks later, CBS called. Lawrence auditioned for The Carol Burnett Show at 18, with no formal training. Executives were unimpressed and wanted a real actress. Burnett refused. "Yes, she's a diamond in the rough," she insisted. That was the second save. For 11 seasons, from 1967 to 1978, Lawrence learned her craft in front of millions, winning an Emmy in 1976 and multiple Golden Globe nominations, all because a pregnant woman trusted her instincts, and a bold teenager dared to walk into a maternity ward. Then came the third save in 1975, the pregnancy firing Lawrence never even knew was happening. Carol Burnett didn't just discover Lawrence. She fought for her 3 times, introduced her to the man she'd marry and spend 50 years with, and taught her to trust her instincts. But Burnett's most remarkable gift may have been the freedom she gave Lawrence to create a character so convincingly that Lawrence eventually became that character herself. How did a young actress transform so completely into someone decades older? Playing 65 at 24 and finally becoming Mama at 76. Vicki Lawrence was 24 when she first played Mama Thelma Harper on The Carol Burnett Show. Mama was supposed to be 65, a cantankerous, sharp-tongued woman who insulted everyone and took no prisoners. Lawrence pulled it off so convincingly that when she turned 72 in real life, she had a startling realization. "I used to say Mama was 65 and holding," she told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in March 2016. "Now that I've reached that age, I realize she must be much older." Most actors spend their careers trying to escape their most famous roles. Not Lawrence. The older she got, the more she loved Mama. "Funny thing is, the older I get, the more I think I like her," she said. "You reach an age where you don't have time to mince words. You say what you're thinking. I think you earn that right." She calls Mama my evil twin, my husband's nightmare. The character became her vehicle for saying what polite society told women not to say. Mama didn't care about being nice. She spoke her mind, and audiences adored her for it. The family sketches grew so popular that NBC spun them off into Mama's Family in 1983. The show ran 7 seasons until 1990 and still airs in daily syndication across the United States, available as a Time Life DVD collection for new generations to discover. But when Lawrence first created Mama, she was being exploited. 5 years into The Carol Burnett Show, She made only $800 a week, while the show dominated ratings. Burnett was making real money, the network was profiting hugely, and Lawrence was barely scraping by. "I wasn't in a position to ask for anything," she admitted, "so I got the shaft." By the time Mama's family negotiations came around, Lawrence had learned from the Bobby Russell disaster and her #1 hit, "The Night the Lights Went Out," in Georgia. She played hard to get, made the network work for it, and got the deal she deserved: good money, creative control, and respect. The show became her empire, her legacy. At 76, Lawrence still tours with Vicki Lawrence and Mama, a two-woman show, performing as both herself and her evil twin. She co-starred in The Cool Kids on FOX, breaking every rule in a retirement community, and continues activism work as spokesperson for CIU&U, while supporting the Humane Society and American Heart Association. The girl who earned $800 a week became the woman who built her own empire. But none of it would have been possible without the most unlikely first meeting in Hollywood history. A story so strange it sounds made up. The most improbable origin story in Hollywood history. In 1966, in Inglewood, California, 17-year-old Vicki Ann Lawrence entered a local fireman's talent contest, planning to sing "Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey" while playing guitar and kazoo. Goofy, fun, and hopeful, she wanted to win a small prize. A local reporter noticed something striking. Lawrence looked remarkably like Carol Burnett. Her mother, Anne, had an idea. Write her a fan letter. Vicki shrugged, cut out the newspaper clippings, and mailed them off, expecting nothing. But Burnett read it. She studied the photos. She was pregnant with her daughter, Jody, and announced, "I want to drive down to Inglewood to see her perform." Her husband was baffled. "What the hell is she, a jockey?" he asked. Burnett shrugged. "You know what? I have a hunch. I'm pregnant. Just indulge me." Burnett arrived at the contest, watched Vicki perform, and helped crown her Miss Fireball. Lawrence was stunned. "I didn't even believe it was her," she recalled. 2 months later, hearing that Burnett had given birth at a Santa Monica hospital, Lawrence did the boldest thing of her young life. She walked into the maternity ward uninvited, asked for Mrs. Hamilton, and handed her flowers. Burnett looked up and said 5 words that changed everything. "I haven't forgotten you." Weeks later, CBS called. They needed someone to play Carol's younger sister on her new variety show. Lawrence auditioned. She was 18, untrained, and inexperienced. Executives were unimpressed. "Could we get a real actress?" they asked. Burnett stood firm. "Yes, she's a diamond in the rough." From 1967 to 1978, Lawrence learned her craft on live television, won an Emmy, earned multiple Golden Globe nominations, created Mama Thelma Harper, and met Al Schultz, her husband of 50 years. All because a pregnant woman trusted her hunch, and a bold teenager dared to walk into a hospital room uninvited. A single fan letter and 5 words had set the entire course of her life in motion. If Mama's Family premiered today, would it hit the same way? Or would audiences see it differently? And shouldn't Carol Burnett get more credit for mentoring some of Hollywood's most iconic performers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.